Hey guys, it's Katy at scrappingkaty.ctmh.com, and I am joining the creative design team again to bring you a Cricut Cut Reimagined. So here is a look at all the images of the Everyday Moments collection. We will be using the Forever Friends image right here, so I'm going to click on that and insert that into my project. And then I'm wanting to make that little semi-wreath of those flowers. I'm wanting to duplicate that. So I will have 4 little mini frames for a 4x4 photo. So I'm going to ungroup all these images and I am going to start deleting what I don't need to use. So the first thing is this little border around the entire page. I've deleted that. And then I'm going to start dragging some of these elements off to the side so I can get them away from each other. This particular one I will be using, so I've just drug it off to the side and then I'm going to regroup it together, and that way I can resize it as one image here in just a second. Same thing with this title, the Forever Friends. I'm going to group those together. And if you recall, I'm having to do that because I ungrouped the entire image in the beginning. So these photo mats I am going to drag off to the side. And I just want to make sure they're not touching anything. So when I drag my cursor to collect both of those images, the raspberry mat as well as the white daisy, I don't grab anything else. So I've grouped those. I'm going to do the same with that other photo mat. And then group it together as well. And then so for that little light pink image right there, in order to get it to the front, I'm going to find it over on the right, click it, then click the range button at the top and move it to the front. That way it's easy to drag. And then all the rest I can drag and then group together, and it's going to be really easy for me to resize from here. So I want 4 of these on a 12 by 12, and I do want some room around the edges. So I am resizing this to about 5 1/4. It's not a pure square, so I just did one of the images 5 1/4, and then the other image just populated. So right here I've inserted a shape for my 12 by 12 background so I can tell exactly where these are going to lay on my sheet. And I've just changed the color to white, and then I'm going to duplicate these 3 more times and then drag and drop the way I want them on my layout. I'm also using the rotate button to kind of play with those flowers and how close they are to the edge, and if I want to move them any other way. So I'm going to duplicate this again. Again, drag it down to the bottom, rotate it just a little bit. And I played a while for this. I couldn't decide if I wanted them all facing the same direction, if I wanted them, like maybe the opposite corners, kind of, I don't know, framing the corner, so to speak. I couldn't really figure it out. But once I did this layout and actually cut it and laid it out, it was much better if they're all pretty much facing open toward the center of the page. So I've got all those sized. I've made the mat just a little bit smaller so you can see what I'm doing here. So since this mat is grouped together, I can resize it to 4 1/4, and then that white daisy mat will also resize. So I've resized that, and I'm dragging that over there, and then I'm going to duplicate that 3 times and do the same, drag and drop to those other wreaths. And then now I'm going to take that title and move it, and I really want that in the center of all of those. So all I've done is I've arranged it to where it has come to the front, and I'm going to make it just a little bit larger so it fits and kind of overlaps all 4 of those photo mats. And then this flower, I'm going to go ahead and resize, move it to the front, and then put right there. In the end design, I end up not using it, but at the first I really thought I was going to. So I'm going to resize the height of this to 4 1/4. And I forgot to lock the aspect ratio, so I'm going to go back and do that, 4 1/4. And then this is going to go behind that top left photo mat right there, and then the bottom right. And so I'm going to rotate that 180 degrees. If you can see, there's a slight torn edge on one of those edges, and so I want that torn edge to the center of this layout. So right here, I need to move that to the front, then slide that back behind, and then I'm going to move that title piece to the front as well, and then the last is that floral piece. And that's pretty much the layout. You'll see I do make a couple of changes in the end, but other than that, that is what's going to cut, and that is what my layout's going to look like. Okay, so all my Cricut cuts are pre-cut, and I have pulled out These Are My People paper packet, which is a special for March 2020 from Close to My Heart. Here is a look at the patterns of paper, and I am going to use this black and white striped pattern. It has these very subtle light pink polka dots that I think are just going to go really well with these florals. So I'm going to lay everything out on my layout just to make sure how I want these positioned, and just to make sure I have all the pieces. If you are a follower of mine, you know that I love to do this. And so now I'm going to assemble these little wreaths. I've already assembled 3 off camera, but I wanted to show you how easy it is. So I'm going to do this one in front of you. These larger flowers are backed by raspberry cardstock. And so I am just applying liquid glass all around the edge of those flowers. You do want to work on a surface that you don't mind getting liquid glass on, because they are so tiny. It's really easy for that liquid glass to ooze out. So this next flower is backed by the peach cardstock, and I found on these it is just so much easier to work by flower groups. So I applied liquid glass to all the flowers of the same type and then added the centers. So right here I'm working with the daisies, and there are some large ones as well as some extremely tiny ones. And so I'm just working on getting those little circles in behind those. And again, we're working from the back side. So when you flip this over, you can see that one at the bottom left, how it's going to look. So the last part of this is these cute little leaves. I'm going to back those, and then we are done with these little floral wreath parts. So I'm going to lay these out and see what the best method of starting adhering these down is. First, I am going to assemble my photo mats. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm just loving those wreaths and how they pop on that black and white striped background and texture paper. And so right here, I'm thinking that maybe they needed a little extra color. And so I'm going to take a flower that's not going to show and try to use a tri-blend marker. And I just don't like the look. Again, I love the white just against that black and white striped, and then just those pops of colors for the flowers. So I decided it's going to be easier if I adhere the photo mats down first. So if you are a follower of mine, you know that I love to use foam, like that dimensional foam, and it's adhesive on one side. You can buy it at any craft store. And the reason I like to do this is because I do add dimension to a lot of my photo mats, and I would go broke purchasing foam tape to do this. So I'm just cutting small pieces. I want to leave it toward the center of the photo mat, because I am going to tuck those wreaths behind the photo mat once it's adhered down. So the main focal piece is not the flowers, it's these bright photo mats. So I am just making sure that I have got these really straight, and then once I poke these wreaths kind of behind the photo mat, it won't really matter if those are straight. It's only going to matter to the eye if these photo mats are straight. So right here you can see this one I kind of tore when I was taking it off my Cricut mat, but it was fine. I just adhered them together, and then no one can tell. So on here, I decided to try applying liquid glass to the larger flower and then filling in with the smaller ones, which seems to work. So I'm going to do that on the other two pieces. And then if you can tell, I am leaving some of those little dainty leaves kind of over my photo mat. I think it not only adds a feminine touch, but I think it's going to add some dimension once I get my photos on there. So again, because I added that 3D foam to the center of my photo mat, I'm able to easily tuck those wreaths under those. So right here, I'm going to assemble my title, which is Forever Friends, the namesake of the key from the Everyday Moments collection. And I really like it because it can be used for anything. It can be used for our adult friends. It could be used for our children's friends. You'll see here in a second, once I add my photos, which friend group I am adding. And I just think it's so versatile. You could probably even swap out more masculine colors. And even though you've got the florals, you could put boys on this layout. So I love these little torn strips. I'm going to add that to the top left and bottom right like I discussed, and then add 3D foam squares to the center of this title because remember the sides are going to overlap those photo mats which are already dimensional. So there's pretty much the layout, and I'll come back with the pictures. So I have decided to do this layout all about my crafty friends. So I have already cut down 3 of the 4 photos. So I'm going to cut these down. I'm going to quickly realize they need to be cut down even more. So I'm going to do that off camera so I can get them sized. So they ended up being 3 5/8 by 3 5/8 because that white daisy cardstock is 3 3/4 inch square. So I'm just going to apply adhesive and attach these underneath that title. And again, this craft has brought me so many friends. I truly believe that most of these girls on this layout I would not have met had it not been for scrapbooking, and definitely close to my heart. So I wanted to document that. This little piece is from an older line from Close to My Heart. So I just took it, I cut it out. I'm going to end up trimming it a little bit smaller and then adding 3D foam tape and adhering it down. And I just love my forever craft friends. Thank you so much for watching this Everyday Moments Forever Friends Reimagined video collab brought to you by the Creative Design Team. Please subscribe and sign up for notification, and then click on the next link for the very talented Carrie Simmons in the description below.